Who is running the war against ISIS, President Obama or Vladimir Putin? Their strategies are worlds apart, and both laid out their competing visions for Syria at the United Nations yesterday. Newt Gingrich and Colonel Ralph Peters agree. This is a war Obama hasn't been winning, and Putin is now emerging to take control of the fight.
We're seeing a continuing collapse of the Obama policy. You now have Russia firmly in Syria. You have Russia, Iran, and Iraq working together with Syria. All these are things that 3 or 4 years ago the president would have deeply opposed, and now he's going to have to accommodate a reality that he can't change.
Putin is doing a relatively skillful job of putting the onus on Obama for not cooperating in the fight against terror, against Islamic State. It's a real diplomatic offensive. Putin, he's ugly, he's ruthless, he's vicious. I don't like him at all, but he's brilliant. He's got a long-term strategy.
Sounds like everyone agrees Putin is the man in charge. And the suggestion is, Eric, that Obama is basically the architect of a failed policy in the Middle East, especially as it relates to Syria.
It's failed. It's bifurcated. It's changed. It's evolved. And that's the problem. And, you know, the old saying, power abhors a vacuum. He left the vacuum in Syria and in Iraq. Obama did. So what did Russia do and what is Iran doing? They're saying, we'll come in, we'll step in, we'll take control of this. They're both fighting ISIS, so it's in their best interest to fight ISIS in Syria. That's fine. I think we have it wrong. I think that would be great. Let them all take care of ISIS in Syria. The problem is when the ISIS group spilled into Iraq, they could fight. We needed to push them back into Syria, and you can do that through the Kurds. You can do that through the Iraqi forces. You can give them assistance, air support, whatever you want to do. Get them back into Syria and let them fight out Syria. Syria, great picture right here. Syria is not that important. If Syria stays in other people's hands, we have them surrounded. We have Turkey, we have Iraq. On one side, we have Israel and Jordan. On the other side, we have Saudi Arabia. They will be completely surrounded. So isolated. I don't think that we need to be losing American soldiers in Syria.
Okay, but do you have a problem, though, with Putin taking care of it?
No, because he can't go there. He can't. There's no reason for Putin to stay. If you put that map back up, Russia is almost 2,000 miles away from Syria.
Well, what does that matter? I mean, they invaded Afghanistan. Like, they're not going to, they're still, that doesn't mean they don't have interest there. But the other thing I would say is...
Well, so what's the interest? There's no oil there.
We don't know what his interests are, but they're never good. I mean, we know that much. But the thing I want to say about Putin, I do think, unfortunately, Putin was right in the sense of saying, overthrowing all these dictators, led to this chaos and all this kind of stuff. I think that I hate to agree with him, but I think he was right about that. But he also said that we shouldn't arm the rebels. So actually, he's not siding with anybody in the United States, because he basically is saying, let Assad stand. Don't help anybody overthrow Assad. Right, just let Assad be there, and that has not been the position really of most of at least the conservatives or the neocons certainly.
Well, can I just throw this out here? I would say that, and so what is your suggestion? I mean, I would agree with what's going on there. You have to let Assad stay. You can't arm the rebels. If you arm the rebels have turned and hand over equipment and money and guns and ammo to ISIS.
No. I agree with that. That's been my position from the very beginning. But the position of a lot of conservatives have been that Obama created this problem by not arming the rebels early enough. That's been their position.
But you know who disagrees, Eric, with what you're saying? General Jack Keane. I mean, he's saying that one of the big problems is that Putin's #1 objective is not to wipe out ISIS, and neither is it Assad's. And then you get them together and they gang up with Iran and Iraq, and then you add in North Korea. We don't have the axis of evil anymore. We have the half globe of evil. And they get together and the problem gets bigger and bigger and out of control. I know there's a lot of people that say that logically it makes sense to let them go in and wipe out ISIS, but it's not. That's not the choice.
What's the
choice? Let's get Greg in here.
But the other point is, if you do go ahead, then what? Then you've created another nation state of what? A pseudo-American state in Syria now too? Is that what we're going after?
Greg?
Oh, I don't know. Obama's like the guy who refuses to commit to a girl and then gets angry when the girl starts dating somebody else. And that is what Syria is. I happen to agree that he did. He pretended to commit to Syria, and then he didn't, and that allowed Putin to take control of it. I have a solution for this. I see 3 bad actors and 1 no-show. The three bad actors are Assad, who is brutal, ISIS, who's even more brutal, and you got Putin, who's old school. And then you have the no-show, which is Obama. Essentially, it's the Three Stooges, and Obama is Shemp. Does everybody know the Three Stooges? Yeah. Okay, Putin is Mo, ISIS is Larry, Assad is Curly. And what does Mo do? He takes Curly and Larry, and he goes like this. Boom! That's what he does. He plays them against each other, and they get destroyed.
Well, thank God you didn't do
America.
A Golden Girls analogy. I was worried
That's coming up in the next block with Planned Parenthood.
I think all that makes sense, but the problem is that all these problems that we're ignoring are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more out of control, and they're going to be more expensive.
Because there's the vacuum. We stepped away. The world is basically the size of a phone booth right now. We can't look away thanks to the web. We watch the beheadings. We watch 250,000 people die. We cannot live by ocean privilege anymore. We can't sit there and go, it's not our problem, because sooner or later that problem is going to come here. So we got to deal with it.
Do we go ahead and figure out what happens in Syria? Does Syria become our next Iraq?
But I don't think it will.
But maybe you also have to go back and look at the genesis of this. You brought this up, Kirsten, because a lot of people have blamed President Obama, and they've got facts and information on their side to back it up by this failed red line policy. Let's take a listen to Josh Earnest answering the critics on this.
Does he ever regret drawing that red line and then not enforcing it?
He does not. And the fact is, we would be in a much worse situation had the United States acted unilaterally in those strikes.
Do you agree with that?
I don't think he ever should have set the red line. I think when he set the red line and then didn't follow through, that obviously was bad. It sent the wrong message about whether America is going to follow through on what they say. I just don't think in this situation there was ever a good there was ever going to be a good outcome, right? Because I think that we have to remember that when people were saying, let's arm the rebels, this is before we even knew ISIS. No one even had uttered the word ISIS. And then, and then it turns out, oh gosh, all the rebels we were talking about arming, actually some of them were ISIS. And so we have these we have ISIS against Assad. Assad's a monster. ISIS is even worse. ISIS falls. Right. And then Assad falls, and then who takes over?
But here's the problem. We elected President Obama to address these issues. He wanted to be a world figure, but he didn't want to be a world leader. He preferred to be Bono instead of Churchill. Right. This is why you need a leader that can actually address these problems. He decided not to. He stepped back, and this is now why it's worse. You have 250,000 people who are dead, and you also have all of these refugees and migrants that are leaving that wouldn't have happened, that would not have happened if he'd actually stuck to his guns, but he didn't want to.
And then what, though? Overthrown Assad? Then who would have taken over?
No, he would have been more aggressively gone in there and attacked.
But that's what I'm saying. But then what? Then ISIS moves in, and then what do we
Then you go after ISIS.
Wouldn't you hope that there's a whole pack of generals that could sit down and come up with a solution? I mean, I'm not sure that the five of us are the ones that could possibly come up with a solution.
I think so.
Huge problem. But someone needs to get involved and do something, because all the problems are getting bigger, more out of control, more expensive.
Here's what the generals will tell you to do.
ISIS. Kill ISIS.
Right. The generals will say, go in, put boots on the ground in Iraq and in Syria. And then what happens? Do they finally say, okay, we're done in the Middle East here. We're going to pack our bags and go head out and fight a fight somewhere else?
I think
they continue to fight, and they move the fight somewhere else. And then what we're stuck with is Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria without knowing how long do we protect those before they come back.
But now we have ISIS and Putin and Assad and North Korea and Iran and the mullahs.
But it's far worse.
Guys, I got
it's far worse thanks to Obama's inaction.
There's no oil in Syria. There's no major trade coming out of Syria. Let them have Syria. Eventually, Syria's going to come and say, you know what, we need your help. We need your money. And you go, you need our help? Okay, we'll make a deal with you. And then you provide the help. But in the meantime, let them kill each other in Syria, no?
Well, there are 250,000 people that are dying who shouldn't be dying. I mean, I would hate to have seen the 5 during 1942. Would we be sitting there saying the same thing?
I mean, okay, so lean on some of the other allies, some of our allies in the region who could help out. Jordan can help out. Saudi Arabia can help out. The Iraqis, I guess, could help out.
But the U.S., the United States, used to be the leader. We used to be the shot callers, and we were coalition builders because we led and were able to achieve these positive outcomes through fear and through respect and through our military, which was compelling. We are not in that same position anymore, and that's the problem. And we bear some of this responsibility and the burden of what's happened in Syria and the Middle East. I mean, my God, we might as well have just sprinkled fertilizer on ISIS.
In Syria?
I'm telling you, because President Obama, our president, is the one who helped create this situation. It would not be this bad.
A lot of people died in Iraq, Kimberly. A lot of people died.
We're talking about Syria right now. We're talking about Syria.
But
and
I don't want another Iraq. My point is I don't want another Iraq. That's my
The issue when you decide not to be the world's policeman, there are plenty of other people who want to be the world's policeman, and we're seeing it now with Putin. And you know what? Maybe that was Obama's plan. Maybe he decided that he handed the baton over to Putin.
Yeah, he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize and turned over the Middle East to Putin. All right, nice.
I don't think that was
outcome.
the plan.